Hello, South Africa. Happy Heritage Day. My name is Langankosi, and today I'll be reading a book from SA Heritage Publishers, and the name of the book is Meeting Shaka. Early Zulu History and Young Shaka. Before I tell you what happened after Finn and his group left in search for Shaka, I want to tell you a little more about the Zulu history. The ancestors of today's Zulu people were the late Iron Age people who lived in what is called today KwaZulu-Natal. This was between 1400s and the 1500s. They lived in beehive-shaped homes made of sampling frameworks covered with thatched roofs. There would be about 20 of these homes called imizi, which were clustered and which together formed extended family homesteads. There were several tribes between Belgoa Bay and Sofala, which was the next Portuguese settlement to the northwest in Mozambique. Their languages, manners, and customs were different from the tribes to the south and inland. They had been oppressed over the past 100 years by Zulus and similar large tribes. The Ngwane and the Mthethwa tribes largely dominated the area, while the land around and to the south of Belgoa Bay was low, swampy, and sandy. It was rich and fertile in other places. While the climate during the healthy season was pleasant, the unhealthy season from October to March brought on fevers and malaria caused by humidity and bad air carried by winds blowing over the swamps. During the 16th century, the Nguni-speaking people were made up for tribes of about 1,000 people, each of which accompanied by 1,000 to 2,000 hectares. It is said that around 1560, a certain Malandela was born, who became chief of a small tribe of the Nguni. This chief settled in the lowlands of the Mhlathuze Valley, between present-day Eshowe and Melmoth. Malandela had two sons, Kwabe and Zulu. After their father died, the two brothers quarreled and they split up. Kwabe settled south of the Mhlathuze River and nearer to the sea. Zulu moved north of the river and further inland, settling on the banks of the White Mfolozi, near present-day Ulundi. Each brother took their respective followers, forming two new groups. The Zulu clan remained small and insignificant, with less than 1,000 people. Zulu had 4 sons. The youngest of these 4 sons, who was called Jama, had a son named Senzanga Khona. Senzanga Khona had 3 legitimate sons, Shaka, Dingani, and Bande. The 2 elder brothers had no children. When his father died in about 1781, Senzanga Khona inherited the chieftainship of the Zulu. At that stage, the Zulu clan included about 2,000 men. Senzanga Khona, who was due to marry Princess Nandi, who was the daughter of Mbeni, the chief or Inkosi of the Elangeni clan. In 1787, which was before they actually got married, Nandi gave birth to a son. This boy was called Shaka. Although Nandi later became Senzanga Khona's 3rd wife, Shaka had been born before his parents were married. This was considered to be a shame, and even though he was Senzanga Khona's eldest son, Shaka was not recognized as heir to the Zulu throne. She and Shaka were exiled from the Zulu tribe. They went to live with Nandi's uncles back with the Langeni tribe. As you will later learn, when you read more stories of Shaka, he had an unhappy childhood among the Langeni. As a youngster, he was reserved, and when he was not involved in competitive activities, he tended to keep himself somewhat aloof and distant from his peer group. His peers did not accept him and often teased him and made fun of him. Because Nandi and her child were not accepted by the people, they developed a strong bond. Their close relationship played an important role in forming the boy's character. Because he was badly bullied by his peers, Shaka pushed himself to excel in everything. As a youngster, he spent many hours throwing hunting spears at different targets and practicing stick fighting. As a result, he became very good at both. He loved mass stick fights, where he could plan his moves and make sure that his fingers were always well drilled and skilled. He controlled his fighting group with rigid discipline. Through the success of his group, Shaka was able to form alliances, and steadily he gained control over all the herd boys in his area. It was during these stick fights that Shaka learned the value of tactics. This was later to hold him in good stead as he laid down the foundation upon which he built the mighty Zulu Empire. At this time, the chief or Inkosi of the Mtetwa people was Dingiswayo. He was a strong, wise, and kind leader. Under his leadership, the clan became very powerful. Dingiswayo was also an enlightened ruler. At the time, there was turmoil created by increasing population pressures, drought, land hunger, and the opening of trade routes to Balboa Bay. As a result of these pressures, small clans were combined into more powerful units. Although Dingiswayo preferred persuasion and diplomacy, he realized that there was the need for force at times. He did not hesitate to use force when it was necessary. He did away with the traditional initiation schools and instead conscripted the various Izindanga, which means age groups, directly into the army. He had reorganized the army into Amabuto, which means standing regiments, so that they could be sent out easily when needed. Steadily through a combination of diplomacy and coercion, Dingiswayo united most of the clans living between the Black Mfolozi and Mhlatuze rivers into a form of loose confederation, each member of which paid tribute or homage to him. Dingiswayo took Nandi and her son under his protection. When Shaka became an Insizwa, which is a young man, he was put under the care of a commander-in-chief in the Mtetwa army. Young Shaka distinguished himself through his intelligence, bravery, courage, and fighting skills. When Senzanga Khona died in 1816, Dingiswayo advised Shaka that he should become the Zulu chief only by killing the rightful heir. Shaka managed to persuade one of his half-brothers to assassinate Singwana, his ruling half-brother. After that, Dingiswayo promoted him to commander of his Isikwe regiment. Shaka then marched into Zulu territory, and because he was so powerful, people acknowledged him as king. It was not long before he became known as a formidable warrior. Shaka often sat alone, thinking about conquest, empire building, and the tactics of war. Shaka's intellect led him to question the fighting methods that were used at the time. After trying for a while and experimenting with it, Shaka reshaped his spear. The newly shaped spear had a short, strong shaft and a long, broad blade so that it would inflict maximum damage. Shaka also revised battle tactics. When his warriors went out to fight, they formed a double envelopment formation. This was known as the Izimpondo Zenkomo, or the horns of a beast. because it was like the head of a buffalo. This battle tactic called for speed, so Shaka did away with the cumbersome sandals that the warriors wore. He made his warriors dance on parade grounds covered with three-pointed devil thorns in order to harden the soles of their feet. He also had the shields made larger so that the warriors were protected from chin to toe. During the early part of his reign, starting in 1816, Shaka lived near his father's homestand. In 1818, he and 5,000 soldiers celebrated his first major victory. This was when they beat 12,000 Luande at the Oakley Hills near Ulundi. In the same year, Chief Zwide, who had managed to escape, defeated Dingiswayo and had him put to death. Shaka did not agree with Dingiswayo's gentlemanly way of the warfare, where he would teach his enemies a lesson rather than destroy them. As a result, Shaka defeated Dingiswayo's son and his Mtetwa tribe. After that, there was even greater slaughter and savagery. Even the elderly, women, and children were killed. No quarter was given, no prisoners taken. Shaka became king, who was both feared and admired. He was generous with his gifts of cattle, the theft of which was punishable by instant death. In about 1820, Shaka moved his capital to KwaBulawayo near Eshowe, about 115 kilometers from Port Natal. Wow, I think I'll have to end it right there, guys. But if you want to know more about meeting Shaka, please go to SA Heritage Publishers. I am Lala Love, signing out.